Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Local Hour. Per tradition, that means we are joined by David Samson, the host of Nothing Personal with David Samson. Please follow him on Twitter at...
Was that a smattering of applause? Was that it was a
Get
very sad nightclub.
And the end of the bench Chris right here.
Yeah,
I mean, it was depressing, though.
I should be at Madison Square Garden tonight, but instead I'm here.
This person is great on a number of subjects in the sports landscape. He's controversial. He causes sparks. Nothing Personal is very popular. When he comes on board, we can give him more enthusiasm than that when he's joining the show.
You know what he's also great at? I'm going to give him some flowers here. I called David a week or so ago for something Greg Cody show related, and he has a great energy when he answers a random phone call from somebody. He says hello, and then I engage with him, and because it's always like hello, and then your next response is huge onto what is this conversation going to be, and this is David's move. What's shaking?
You know that it's a good thing I was in New York that day because you didn't need joint party consent to record. I had no idea you were recording that phone call.
Well, I did say, hey, David, we're recording the Greg Cody show. We're talking about this. Like, I did. It wasn't an official interview.
It did not occur to me that what that conversation was going right into the show.
If you listen back,
it's a good thing I didn't say fucker.
If you listen back, there was a clear. If you listen back, there was a clear at the beginning. Hey, we're recording the Greg Cody show and we're talking about this. So I wanted to get your thoughts.
You're calling a human being on a normal phone call is being made, and you're immediately putting that person on the air against their permission.
Can you let me praise him? I'm trying to say something positive about David Samson here. And when I did that, illegal. His response, because it's always hello, and then it's on that next thing needs to be something to get the conversation going. And he has a great one. It's what's shaking.
An aggressive what's shaking.
It got me excited. I'm like, oh, I got something shaking, actually.
It's a conversation opener. It's somebody welcoming you to a conversation. You're not a spam call. You're not a telemarketer. What's shaking? I want to talk to you.
Do you know where that started? It started because my best friend has Parkinson's. And so I would say to him, hey, good morning, what's shaking?
Oh, no.
And he would say me.
No.
Yes. And he loved it.
Jesus, David.
Just telling you.
He's
my best friend. We've raised
David.
hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to find a cure because there is no cure. And so you have to, he's the one who I ran all the 52 and a half miles and gave money to that and all sorts of things.
Is David going to be able to offer enough context to make this okay? Yes, friends.
I feel like he offered plenty of context, and it's just not okay.
I mean, like,
it is okay.
Okay, so
because he said it was okay.
I feel like you should have built up to the Parkinson's.
Here we are
you led with the Parkinson's. You should have said, I have this friend that I've raised thousands of dollars for.
We can't run this show.
Jesus.
Hey, World Baseball Classic, the biggest game in baseball history.
It's unbelievable. How batty is it this?
3 minutes.
I think he's good. I like it.
3 minutes. There's just ways to handle that, David. World Baseball Classic, the biggest baseball game ever, happened at the ballpark that you bilk taxpayers out of.
I can't believe that just happened.
It's wild.
I can't. We were having fun. I'm the one who ruins the fun around here.
No, Dan. There are others.
When you're at World Baseball Classic at Marlins Park, is any part of you saying that it looked better before Jeter got there, or no?
The park? Yeah, the park looks better.
The actual park.
Yeah, it looks better. There's one main reason why it looks better.
You're saying it looks better now?
Yes, Samson wants the statue in the outfield. That's what Samson is saying.
I don't want that
and I want the
thing.
color back. They made everything gray and drab.
It's
blue. It's blue.
It's better now than it was before. I've told you this privately, and I've said this before. Not a fan of the ballpark. I don't for a brand new ballpark. That shit stinks.
What don't you like about it, Mike?
I don't like it.
Be
it's
specific.
not good. Like I like the recess
Samson
area.
built it. People should know that Samson built. There's not a thing.
That's what he doesn't like about it.
There is not a thing in that ballpark. Not one thing that he didn't handle. Not one thing. Carpet colors, everything.
I'll defend it. I like the ballpark. I love that you can walk around it on the concourse and see the game at all times.
That's every ballpark.
And
every major new ballpark. Yeah, every
just
new
thinking
ballpark
back
does
Pro
that.
Stadium.
What don't you like about it? The ingress and the egress? I can't help that.
I like I like recess. I like that area. The food needs to come a long way for me. The atmosphere. Look, I love going to the World Baseball Classic games that I went to because the atmosphere lent itself to a much more fun experience, but it's this antiseptic environment 99.9% of the time. I don't ever really watch the game because I'd rather be doing something else. That's going to be corrected with the actual changes to the game that they're making. But I've gone to all the other major new ballparks. All of them are better. From what you can do that is adjoining the game to different bars and stuff to places for kids. I just don't think it is this world-class facility. I think out of the new ballparks, it's one of the worst.
You're telling me that you like the Cincinnati Reds ballpark better?
I have not been to that one. I've been to Petco. I've been to Comerica. I've been to.
That's
You
not
have
a great
Comerica
one, but-
ahead of Marlins Park.
Petco's a dump.
I do have
America's a
Comerica.
dump.
I do have Comerica ahead of Marlins Park. I think Comerica is amazing. From the hospitality areas to the adjacent bars to what you can have for the kids.
Wait, when
to
you
the
say
sight lines.
adjacent-
I love
Have you been to the
Comerica.
Diamond Club, Mike?
Yeah.
And you didn't like that either.
Oh, wait. I did think at Marlins Park, I've been to all these parks you're talking about. Cincinnati's not a great comparison. It is not because
It's a great American ballpark.
I mean, I can watch BP in the batting cages while I'm like gnawing on mozzarella sticks. It's pretty cool.
The Marlins did the
Who you guys
VIP
talking to? I do hospitality everywhere.
The Marlins did the VIP well, I thought. I thought they did that classy as any baseball stadium I've been in.
Right.
For the rich people.
I've done their hospitality. I've done their GA. I've done the upper deck. I've gone several times
There's
and
no
not watched
GA.
the game.
There's
You know
no
what I
GA.
mean? You know what I mean? Like
No, I don't. What's GA?
the uppers when it's open. I've been to the bad seats. I've been to the good seats. I've been behind home plate. I've been in that bar area that they have in left center. I've been to
You mean
recess.
the Clevelander?
Well, no. The one up there that is not a beer that sponsors our show. So stop pressing me on it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Did you like the Clevelander or no?
Yeah, I like I like what it is now. Recess. I think that area is cool. That's where I would spend most of my time there. I like that the bullpen is next to it, but for such a new park, David, I just don't prefer it. This is all subjective. There are people that
No,
really
I'm not
like
taking
it.
it personally at all. I
It's
think
just
that any
business.
ballpark
Nothing
that
personal.
is full is better. Let's start with that.
Yeah. Oh, also the players don't like that. Don't like the players. I like the
Can't help
players
you
for a
there.
year, and then you traded them all to Toronto.
Okay, but that's off topic. That's not part of the architecture. He says it's not personal. I'd be hurt if I poured as much time, obsessive time as Samson did into that ballpark, and then you would tell me in Super Miami style that the only things that are worth a shit are the VIP area and the club.
And you got the Dandy Bear color scheme. I don't know what's going on. Pick a color. God damn.
The Clevelander and the club is all we did right.
David, I do have a question based on all of this. Clearly, when you design a new arena or a new stadium, you do the tour of everyone else's new facilities to kind of steal ideas or whatever. Where did you go? What ideas did you pick off of? And what buildings around the league do you say, man, that's a really beautiful, well-done stadium?
So we went everywhere, both nationally and internationally. Let's talk about Arizona. We didn't want it to feel like Arizona because our feeling is that Arizona feels like an airport, an airplane hangar.
It's a box.
That it just had that vast sort of box feeling. We didn't like the Miller Park. It's not called Miller Park anymore. I can't remember what it's called, which is amazing right now.
It should be
It's
because
some
that is a
insurance
great
company.
beer. That is a great beer.
Miller.
Yeah, I
Yes,
still call it Miller
delicious.
Park.
Yeah.
So maybe it's American Field General or something, but that had the fan roof, if you recall.
Well, just 3.2
so-
carbs per 12 ounces park.
Hey, do you get paid just for saying that, Mike?
Yes.
Just like that?
Yes.
All right, let's all be quiet and let you earn your
Yes.
money.
Matter
Ready,
of fact,
go.
I do.
I know, so go right now.
Promo code
Yeah,
Dan.
all that matters is that Miller Lite is the reason for all the great ballparks and any joy you've had in sports. Continue, please.
So we wanted it to be intimate. So at the time we built it small with the maximum of about 36,000 seats. We wanted it to be Miami. This actually came from Jeffrey, where he said when anyone does a twirl, they need to know wherever they're looking that they're in Miami. That was the reason for the home run sculpture, for the fish tanks, for the color scheme, which was part of the palette of the great artist Miro, where there was a green and a blue and a red and a yellow. So that would be good for directional signage, but also good for the aesthetic of it. We wanted there to be art, which there is in the ballpark, and we wanted there to be food from everywhere. So we worked with Levy Catering concessionaires to have food that would appeal to all sorts of palates. That was the goal. What happened was the ballpark was beautiful, everything was great, and it got screwed up in 2012 by various things, Castro related and Samson related, and team performance related and Heath Bell related, that caused everything to start badly. Just imagine for a minute the following scenario. 1, we have a good year in 2012. 2, Jose doesn't die. And 3, Jeffrey doesn't sell. Just imagine those things. Imagine still having Stanton on that team.
I don't
imagine it feeling this way always, because the one thing we could never do in the new ballpark was win. That's the only thing we didn't do. And so, therefore, we don't know whether baseball works in Miami because we haven't had a winning
stop.
team
Relax,
ever.
John Lennon.
Stop.
There is no scenario
Stop.
in which Stanton is still on this team
Stop.
over here. You stop it. With Loria owning the team, I know that's, in retrospect, an improvement over what is going on presently. But come on, dude. That utopian scenario doesn't exist. You guys would have botched it.
And you gave up on
we wouldn't have
on
actually.
winning after like 6 games. Like, get out of here. Heath Bell
It
came
was
in.
not 6 games.
Heath Bell came in here, blew a couple of saves, and that's it. You gave up on everything.
Yeah, and then subsequently, you blame the
Not what
performance on the
happened.
field, and
Yes.
then the fans did not show up, and then everything in the ballpark got worse. You started skimping on food because you did make
Yep.
an investment early in food, and then everything started coming out of the same kitchen, and everything started tasting bland.
Enough with
Not
the
exactly
shitty
true,
arepas.
but
Enough with
thank
the
you.
shitty arepas and calling it flavor from another culture.
Yeah, dude. Like the food was the first thing to go, and then
No, it went
there were
quickly,
dilutions
too.
by degrees.
It went quickly. You went from gourmet food, that place had class food, to all of a sudden it was shit, and you know it. And it's because there were 7,000 fans in there at night, and you couldn't afford. You guys were like the movie Major League. You were cutting costs in the corners.
The producers.
But the seats reclined on the charter.
Oh man,
He's got a point there.
See, that is
Bishop to
brutal.
Rook 9.
That is brutal. That is awful.
But see, that's an open admission that the game day experience suffered because they started cutting corners. And all I'm articulating to you at the front end when I say I don't like that ballpark is I have all those experiences. I've been in that ballpark probably a dozen times, and the best times that I have there are when I haven't paid attention to a single game and I'm just at a bar that is lively. Credit to you, that is a part of the stadium, but
What
that's
about
a part.
PNC when it's not full?
The
Is it still beautiful or not?
Pittsburgh. I mean, it's in Pittsburgh.
David,
but yeah, the rivers are beautiful and the bridges are beautiful.
PNC
and-
is one of my favorite ballparks, but it's a different feeling now when there's no fans in the stands.
Do you guys
It's just
realize, though, as we talk about this, do you realize, David, as we talk about the building of the ballpark, that you are single-handedly at the center of ruining Mike Ryan Ruiz's relationship with baseball because he wanted something soulful from a ballpark as a fan and grow up loving the Marlins, and what he got instead was corporate greed at every turn that gave him a $12 fucking cheap ass that you paid 3 cents for, arepa.
Hey, Mike, welcome to adulthood.
Oh, grow up. That's what he just
So
said.
cold, right? That's how it went.
Grow
Well,
up,
look,
Mike.
and then he laments that I don't want to give the team another chance.
I don't lament it anymore. I actually don't care.
Right. Okay.
Mike, what's your
Well,
favorite
he's
But,
full
ballpark?
lament,
you,
but
you
not
did
anymore.
that approach did kill my fandom.
But you
It
said
did. It
grow up
squashed
and
it.
like what
I
you
did.
you
I
stole
did.
something.
I
David,
did grow up.
You stole something from
Time
him.
stole it, Dan, not me.
No.
Just time.
No, you sold it. You sent it to Toronto. But when you
Oh,
tell me,
give me a break.
when you tell me-
Seriously. What, you
When-
were that attached to Mark Burley?
No, I was
By
that
the way, happy
attached-
birthday, Mark Burley.
Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson is the one we were attached
David,
to.
I hate rehashing this, but what I was attached to was being a champion for the cause, being someone that, in retrospect, embarrassed himself because I was pounding the table because I just wanted a ballpark here because I didn't want to lose Miguel Cabrera anymore.
David, Mike's a good fan. Like Mike cares about his teams in a way that's stupid.
What I
Like,
was, I wasn't
you
attached.
ruined it.
Stupid fan.
I
You
wasn't.
ruined it.
I wasn't attached to Mark Burley. I was attached to the notion that if we had a subpar season, but Mark Burley was good, we'd be able to keep Mark Burley because we built this new ballpark and gave you all that extra revenue. And when that went away far too quickly, that's it. I was dumb. I was done.
You were dumb
And-
also.
No, I was dumb for believing in it.
Who's the we?
Your fans.
You're fans, and when you
The
tell
fans- the
when you
fans
tell a
you
fan to
wrecked.
grow up, like, don't you want that childlike enthusiasm going to your
Obviously.
ballpark?
You guys act. Here's the problem with your shop is you act as though that I'm happy that what happened. That's
I
was
mean,
the
you
plan.
do, but you
You do
do
kinda
say-
just said
the
David,
charter seats
David,
reclined.
You just did the recliner, and it was a great line. Like,
By
you
the way,
enjoyed it in
listen,
first class.
The players were far more interested in the team charter, trust me, than they were in whether or not. Do you know why the bullpens got moved at Marlins Park? Do you know the story of that?
No.
I want to hear all your stories on where you guys did the cheap things trying to cut corners.
I want to hear this bullpen story first. Hold on. Yeah.
We got basically in trouble from our own players, and there with the home bullpen was supposed to be where the Clevelander was because it's closer to the third base dugout, which is the home dugout. So we made it convenient for the players to get to the dugout, to get from dugout to bullpen,
Oh, I know
or
where this is
clubhouse to
going.
bullpen. Now, ironically, Shohei Ohtani, what he did the other night when he walked on the field to get to the bullpen, that's not how it's supposed to go. You're supposed to go in the tunnel behind the clubhouse. But the players' wives were upset that the Clevelander was right next to the bullpen and all these naked women were there and that the players were getting distracted. And the baseball people were annoyed because they felt that the bullpen arms were not focusing on the game and they thought, put the visitors there because let them not focus. Our guys have to focus. Meanwhile, it totally inconvenienced the bullpen guys, and that switch was made. I actually don't know today where is the Marlins bullpen in right field or left field now?
The Marlins bullpen's in right field because the visitors are in left.
Yeah, it's where you guys were trying to distract them with what was happening at the Clevelander, and you did.
We're getting conflicting reports. They may have moved it back.
When it was still the Clevelander, they moved them away from that. But I believe last season it wasn't the Clevelander anymore, so the party wasn't as
That's
ruckus,
right.
so they moved them back to left field, I believe.
So that's what the Clevelander disappeared, right? That sort of deal disappeared.
Yeah, it's
now
they
recess.
They took the pool away. So did they change the bullpen back to left field now?
I don't know. I went a couple of years ago, and I thought a Pittsburgh Pirate was trying to holler at my wife, but all he was mouthing was, "I get the show." I was like, "Am I about to
called
fight a
her
Pittsburgh
what?
Pirate?" He's like, "Hey," he's like, "Who's this guy looking at us? I'm gonna have to say something."
Were
Am
you
I gonna-"
like, you are out of line?
No.
My biggest nightmare would have been that Cuban pitcher or bullpen person who threw the ball at the fan. Did you guys see that
Yeah,
happen?
dude, that was terrible.
That's a problem, right? Not forget. I'm not talking about the politics of it. I'm talking about the security of that.
Yeah, was anything done about that? It looked like he just kind of got away with it, and it freaked
the
like
fan
the
should not be
bullpen
ejected
catcher out
for
so
that.
much that he was like, "I'm out of here."
That fan, well, by the way, yes, that we did a whole segment on that and Nothing Personal, which was interesting, where Cuba would never play in Miami because they thought they'd come with a team and leave with the trainer. And so that's why Miami never got the semis or the finals before. And they put them over in Japan for the early rounds, hoping they'd get eliminated, which MLB was hoping for this year as well, I'm positive. But that said, what it's never the fans' fault. You're allowed to yell at the players. You get access to the players. You just have to, you can't throw things at them. You can't swear at them, but you can heckle them all you want. But when a player engages, that's a little like what happened with the Pistons in a way.
Yeah, no, it's a Ron Artest thing. It's amazing that thing didn't get out of hand, considering all the political tension there. If that fan hops into the bullpen and is followed by
That's what
several
I was
others,
thinking
it
could
could have
happen.
gotten really ugly.
I was wondering, couldn't tell if the ball hit the person. It didn't look like it did.
It looked like it
but
just
was
missed.
Well, David,
Yeah, that's what I think
as
too.
much coverage as the WBC got, because the numbers are kind of crazy. I don't know if you guys saw this, but basically those numbers on just Fox, so many people were talking about baseball, emotional. Oh, what's this polarizing thing that some people say, this is shit, it's just not baseball, get it away from here and don't ruin my reliever. And other people are real loud about, as Shohei Ohtani is saying, this is the greatest moment of my life. Are you kidding me? With protests in Cuba, in Miami from Cubans, did baseball not see that coming? How angry did that make baseball? And will baseball ever come here again? Because what that bullpen incident could have been under those circumstances, they narrowly escaped people not actually paying attention to those protests.
Yeah, they will because, A, they were surprised. I don't think that they were as ready as they should have been for what was happening. But B, it was 300 people. And what you root for in 26 is for Cuba not to make it back to Miami. Because when you have the Dominican Republic and Venezuela and Puerto Rico and the U.S., that is what the dream is. And the players, they would rather be in Miami for these games than in Arizona. Even for the guys who do spring training in Arizona, they're much happier to have the time in Miami. So Marlins Park will continue to get the WBC. And the Marlins actually profit. We made good money in 17 hosting the WBC at Marlins Park because you get to keep a percentage. A bunch goes to the players, a bunch goes to the federations, but the host team actually makes seven figures.
I want to stay on the WBC for a little bit, and you've touched on this in previous episodes the last time the WBC was here, but for the new audience, Jeremy has a question for you.
Hey, David.
Hey, Jeremy.
Nice to see you.
Shake it.
Wanted to
last minute. Like, what is that? What are you guys doing? What?
My daughter asked me
This is my
every day.
first. This is my first time
Jeremy
ever
today.
speaking.
This
I've
isn't.
known.
What is this? This isn't a question and answer with like from a podium. You're on a show with each other.
Hey, David, first time, long time.
Like, what are you doing? Just
been on
ask
TV.
a question. We're lobbing the
Congratulations on
ball
all
over
your
to
success.
Jeremy
Yeah, this
as
is-
if he's not a professional broadcaster.
Well, it's just new audience.
But you
I
don't
can't
need to
just
say hello to David like you're introducing yourself to him. Just ask the damn question.
The Marlins obviously need to be able to kind of create a better environment in the ballpark. We talk about it all the time, but because of the WBC, instruments were brought into the ballpark, and that's what kind of made the environment what it was. Is it possible for the Marlins to apply for some sort of waiver with MLB, or did you ever try to yourself to try to allow instruments into the ballpark and things of that nature?
Do you not remember? Are you too young to remember the Vuvuzela game?
Oh, I do remember the Vuvuzela game. Of course I do. But that's different. That's
was
different than what's happened now. That's
Isn't that
a
an
game.
instrument?
Right, but that's a singular example. Like, is that something they can do long term where it's always welcome in the ballpark?
So the answer to that is yes, and it's not MLB, right? It's us. We can decide what kind of atmosphere we want, but it takes on a different view when there's 5,000 people and there's a bunch of people hitting bells. It's very distracting, and it's actually not part of Ruach. It's not part of making it a better game day experience. In a sold-out stadium, we would encourage, and I would want all of those types of instruments. It's what we're trying to do. It's why the Marlins don't benefit really from the WBC through increased season ticket holders or through increased attendance, because no one comes to the games with that level of patriotism, with that level of spirit. So that's not why we apply to host the WBC, thinking that we're going to be able to convert, though the Marlins are trying to do it, and it'd be great to do it. It just doesn't happen because it's so different. But yes, I love all the instruments. I've gone to so many games down in the Dominican and been a part of what that is. It's amazing. Go to Japan. I went to the Look at Me, Louie Japan series with Ichiro's last games. It's just a different world there. And we try to recreate it, and we just can't.
I've got a couple of quick questions before we get you out of here, because the numbers were crazy on this series, even locally. The biggest game since Red Sox-Yankees 2011. Giant ratings here, and in Japan, I can't even imagine what it was. How, because before that last game against America, it was half the televisions in Japan, allegedly. But the thing that I wanted to get you out here on before we go to your movie review is I want the one thing where you were trying to be the sneakiest about tricking the customer with cheaper items once you realized that the business was failing and you had to really cheapen things and hope people didn't notice.
It's the ratio of employees to fans. It is what concession stands are open and how far people have to go to get food. It is the quality of food. You have no idea how much money you can save with food. And in the buffets, like in the Diamond Club, the quality of food in the Diamond Club went down. And there is huge margin there. And you can increase prices of alcohol while decreasing quality of food, and your total profit in F&B goes up.
How in the weeds did you get with this? Were you like, all the food can go down, but the hot dogs stay good? Like, was
Did
there
you
like
protect anything? Was anything sacred?
No, absolutely not. And
Comes
how
as
far in
no
the weeds?
surprise if you've been.
We would have meetings where the chefs we'd do a tasting, and we would decide what the food was going to be in the ballpark for that particular year, how it was going to be presented. And I was far less interested. This is when I had taste. I was far less interested in the taste of the food than I was in the margin of the food.
Well, it shows now, or it showed then in concessions that you guys had no taste and you had no. And the thing about your art, like you tried to make it an arty-farty ballpark. Where's that statue now? Where is it physically?
Outside.
It's outside on the East Plaza.
Hidden.
Do you know the Marlins spent several $1 million to move it? It's incorrectly reported that it was moved by the public. The public would not pay for that, so Jeter actually paid for that made it part of their budget that year to get the home run sculpture moved outside.
What does that cost? Estimate
It was around $2 million.
to move it. And what does it cost in the weeds on food and beverage? How much can you save just being cheap about what the food? Mike lost his taste for baseball because of you. You gave him baseball COVID.
As someone who has that, I'm sorry, Mike. May I seriously say that if you really lost your taste in baseball because of me, then I'm the sorrier. However, for purposes of this show, I'm not buying it because you've taken your child to a game. Is that correct?
I've taken her to Giants and Padres.
Oh,
games.
he's taking his fandom elsewhere. His daughter's a bigger fan of Highlight, bigger fan of UM women's basketball. You ruined
Hockey.
this, dude. You ruined this.
I was really looking forward to bringing my daughter there, and it's funny that we're concentrating so much on the food because I think that's where the biggest disparity between the ballpark experience at Lone Depot Park is with some of the other contemporary new stadiums that I just mentioned. The food experience at San Francisco is unbelievable.
Always has been.
Same for San
Yeah,
Diego.
always has been.
Even Detroit
I've been gone
is
for
better.
6 years, right? 6 years. How old is your child?
She's 3.
Okay, I'm just doing quick math. Not the smartest guy, but it seems as though that I've not been in charge since your daughter was born.
No.
So anything about the food at Marlins Park has nothing to do with me right now. Do you agree or disagree?
I think you set a template, and
It's
they
what
just
they
have.
in- it's
Give
what-
me a
it's
break.
what they
You think
inherited
that they
from
make
you.
decisions based on what I did 6 years ago? Oh, we're going to screw the fans because we want to be like Samson.
I think every decision is because of what you did 6 years ago that they've made
No.
since.
Every decision is based on the fact that they overpaid for the franchise, but I didn't do that.
What's the largest item?
Yes, you did.
No, I did
You
not.
did do that.
Yes, you
did
did.
do that. That was your fault that it sold
Yes,
for
you
that much.
gloated about how
You're
you
right.
got them
tried
My
to
overpaid.
fault that they wired the money.
No,
You
You're
literally
right.
flipped people off in an event.
You pit Jeter
My
against
fault that
it.
Jeter sucked.
You,
You're right.
You pit Jeter against A-Rod.
You did all of this.
You're a thief. It's all your fault.
Why do you have a shoe
Everything.
behind you?
There is no doubt.
What is the largest item that a huge number of people could get together to move? Because I feel like $2 million to move that.
Yeah, we could have lifted.
Like I just did the math. If I got 500 people and paid them all $200, that's $100,000 we're spending. I think could 500 people. It's like one of those things
Like
like
ants.
crowd surfing. Like
Yeah,
when we're crowd
yeah.
surfing, it's light if there's a bunch of us.
It's a crane.
How many people would we need to lift that statue as a
We
group?
would kill 500
Infinity.
people.
Come on, like you don't. Like, you don't
500 people would die crushed by that statue.
but if we all lift on 3, 1, 2, 3. All
actually comes
right,
apart.
here we go. And to the left.
Trust me.
To the
I'd
left.
I'd like you to do a GoFundMe though to get the Homer back in.
Back
the
it up
problem
now,
is
y'all.
they built this area now, so the pool where it was, it's not a pool, it's like a huge vat, a huge sort of hole is where it was. That's gone now. So there's actually no way to get the sculpture back.
I could have
into the
moved it for
ballpark.
less.
Dave, hold on to your movie review. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm struggling with this. I'm a little emotional. I'm actually a little nervous right now. I mean, because Meadowlark Media is about to announce here something that is controversial. David has wanted it for a long time. I seem to be just about the only one enthused about it around here. David Samson, the guy who ruined Mike Ryan's childhood fandom and baseball in this town because he pit Jeter and Ray Rod against each other to sell the team for too much. So it'll never feel like the World Baseball Classic down here because they can't afford to do baseball down here. The guy who ruined it all is officially coming aboard Meadowlark Media.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
Finally.
How about that?
Finally. Yeah.
I'm taking my life preserver off, gentlemen. I'm finally coming aboard.
What do you
Somehow
mean?
you thrust it upon people,
This is-
man. I don't know how you did it.
Oh, what?
What? You don't even work here.
Are people walking out? That's
Come
it.
on. This is
That's it.
this is exciting.
Boy, do I feel
All these
good.
people.
Is Coca coming?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
I
Nothing
don't know
personal.
what to say. This has been the greatest onboarding situation of all time, Dan. You really got yourself quite a company.
Nothing
I
personal.
can't even get an email.
Nothing Personal is the name of the podcast. It'll be a part of the LeBatard and Friends Network. He will be doing a regular show on sports business with John Skipper, where he will be ugly about how corporate these people can be, stealing your money and your fandom, taking advantage of your fandom. So welcome aboard,
That's the
David.
new name of the podcast. Taking advantage of your fandom with David Samson.
I have a tear in my eye at this greeting, and I wouldn't have it any other way because working with you guys is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh,
David
wow.
Samson is on
Tell me
board,
Coca's coming
everybody.
at least.
David Samson and Coca.
I know some people get bored with Panthers playoff chases, but the Panthers are playing really well.
Well,
and
hold
it's
on
super
a second.
compelling.
Hold on. Yes, we have
Not last game.
We have
Another
neglected,
smattering of applause by me.
We have neglected the Panthers around here, and they did lose to the Flyers. They had people out. They lost 6-3, but they're actually not, as always, 4 games or 4 points out of the final playoff spot. They, toward the end of this season, are actually close to being in the playoffs. And they've had some come-from-behind victories of late, which is not something they did before, and against good teams.
Yeah.
And it's been frustrating, Mike, to go from a team that didn't care about being down 3-0. You knew they would score their way back to the game, into the game. You're now seeing the morphing of alleged playoff hockey being played, and are the Panthers something that can, surprise people in the playoffs because they're tough and play not what they were doing last year offensively.
Right, but they're navigating through some very difficult injuries, and I know we mentioned the most recent result, which is a little unfair because it seemed as though things came to a head, and it finally proved to be too much. They have a monster game against Toronto, but in their last 10, they're 7-2-1, and the Islanders are also 7-2-1 in their last 10. There's a great 3-team playoff chase between the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Panthers. The Penguins had lost 4 straight, and then they go to the defending Stanley Cup champions last night on a national TV game and have an immense result against the Colorado Avalanche. This is not your standard wild card playoff chase in the NHL. These are some of the hottest teams in the NHL.
Roy is on Twitter, and he is telling you what is happening in the games. It is one of the strangest things on Twitter, that a game that you could otherwise be watching for yourself, Roy has an opinion about what just happened in the second quarter.
Is it an opinion or just what happened?
What the hell?
Second period, excuse me. I'm sorry, Roy.
Wow.
I'm sorry to have offended you.
So follow at Roy Belly if you want to know if Radko Gudas deflects a puck or not. But
That'd be kind of difficult. He's a defenseman, usually shooting from the point, but okay.
Oh, yeah, he got you.
he can deflect a puck as a defenseman. I don't understand. Like,
what, you're gonna have him pinching?
he's a human person that stands in the way of hockey pucks. Anyways, we're getting bogged down
I
here.
think, though, the
Defensively,
bigger conversation to have here is, do we owe Maurice an apology?
Not yet.
Because it seems like they're coming into form. A lot of criticism. These group chats were filled with firing the coach early in the season.
That's one of the most annoying things about Mike Ryan, right, is right there. Do we owe him an apology? He is going to be stubborn about giving that apology until he gets some results. That team last year was super exciting, but we kind of feared that playoff hockey would start, and what happened to them, where the Lightning play playoff style, and it's not get your offense out of here, and then they blow up the team, the most exciting team we've seen. They blow it up, and you love Tkachuk. He's having a great season.
Tkachuk is amazing.
He's already an all-time Panther player.
Yeah, they dominate. He's the greatest American Florida Panther ever already. They smashed Calgary in that trade, and if I told you they were going to dominate that trade and still be on the outside looking in right now, you'd be really confused. And I would place a lot of that blame on installing this new season, this new system.
But if it pans out into a deep run in the playoffs, we all have to take the L.
All right, easy with it panning out.
Not we all.
I'm just saying.
Not we all.
Here's why panning out is a bit of a stretch, because if they get into the playoffs, what in all likelihood is going to be waiting for them is the top seed Boston Bruins, who are practically
Dear
setting
God, best team ever.
Right. Although Biz said that he would rather put his cock and balls in a blender if he were the Boston Bruins than play the Florida Panthers, which I thought was interesting. And I do think that the Panthers match up well with Boston, and it wouldn't be unprecedented for a record-setting team to be upset in the first round. We saw this very recently with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Start that blender.
Can I just say right now, I would love nothing more than for the Bruins to be upset by the Florida Panthers, just so that we can get that fraud Mike Schur here. To after all that tough talk he's had about the Bruins, the best ever, and they've lost 3 times since 1932, and oh man, it would be great to just.
But they have been great, and no Panther team around here has ever been trusted.
That's why it would be great.
Well, they wouldn't be trusted either, because I think the problem still is, do we have faith in our netminder? Right now, all the chips are behind Bob. Spencer Knight is working on his personal life right now. He stepped away from the game. You're all in on Sergei Bobrovsky, and you have to hope that he can tap into his Columbus Blue Jacket form. And credit to him, I'll give him credit. He has been better as of late.
I need to stop you, and the reason I need to stop you, okay, because Roy and Chris Cody have been dying to talk about this team, and I cannot have more than 5 uninterrupted minutes on Panthers hockey without losing the entirety of the audience.
Oh, I've been interrupted plenty.
Oh, please.
Netminder.
Yeah, what the hell is a netminder?
When you say netminder, it feels that you have now lapsed
Minding
into
the net.
formal hockey. That netminder seems broadcastery to me. I don't think in casual conversation. I may be wrong about this. I might not understand the hockey language. I don't think. I think goaltender.
I was going to go between the pipes.
But
In the crease?
do you think netminder is a phrase that Roy? Have you ever used the phrase
An important
netminder?
interruption, I think.
Not necessarily, no. I usually go with, goaltender, that sort of thing.
Tender goal.
Do you know
mind the
anyone-
net.
I'm growing increasingly frustrated by hockey. Dan, let's transition to Heat basketball as they got a big win. Nickelback, baby. Oh, look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. They beat the Knicks, and it's actually really kind of two games because the Nets have the tiebreaker on them, but you got a huge matchup against the Brooklyn Nets. You want to avoid that play-in tournament because you just don't want to be playing those extra games to get into the playoffs for your life, even though you have Jimmy Butler. Is this sustainable? It seems like the shooting is starting to come up a little bit, and this is all fueled by butt rock, and I told you, that's all I needed to get in.
I feel like before we can even talk about the product on the floor, we have to address that Jeremy Taché is here, and you, sir, were levied with high crimes of look at me Louiness. With that, I showed the song to Tyler. We spent
just not
5
what
minutes
happened.
trying to figure out who Tyler was. Was there a new employee here named Tyler? I didn't know because every day there's someone new here, and you guys never introduce them. And I just sit there and I'm like, have I met this person? I just don't remember their name, or is this person brand new?
Well, that's a whole other problem. That's a whole other conversation. When I texted Jess, I did name drop Tyler Hero as Tyler. That I will take blame for. But I didn't show Tyler Hero a Nickelback cover and go, hey man, what do you think? I talked to him about Nickelback, and he said that he's been listening to Nickelback on his own since Jimmy started playing it in the locker room.
Name 5 songs.
Yeah, well, that's what I tried to get him to do, but give me a top 5, but he wouldn't go as far as that. But
Like LeBron.
that's all it was. It wasn't. I mean, it was still Look at Me Louie, but it wasn't as bad as Jess made it
Jeremy,
seem.
if you walk by Tyler Hero in a grocery store, what's the interaction like?
Hey, what's up, man? What's
Hey,
up?
Hey, what's up, Jay? Does he know your name?
You don't have
Yeah,
that
he knows my
voice.
name.
You don't have
knows
that
your
voice.
name.
He knows my name.
Why
I
are you
think.
trying to Duncan Robinson this guy right now?
What?
Like, Tyler Hero knows your name, and now Jeremy's gonna have imposter syndrome. Like, oh, how am I gonna live life? I'm gonna be ineffectual in my job now because people know who I am.
Don't worry, that's already happened. It's far past that.
I was proud watching Jeremy last night. You killed it, dude. I'm proud of you. You're good on those television broadcasts.
Did he sing?
No, he didn't. But he's a polished professional.
Now we should get him to just drop in some show references. What do you think,
Yes.
Dan? Let's just ruin what you got
know
going here.
You know I always want
Yeah,
that.
let's go.
Yeah.
I also think he needs to sit down now with Tyler Hero and do 5 minutes on Nickelback. I want
Yeah.
to hear
Can you
that
get that?
conversation. That conversation. Why couldn't he
I'll
get
put
it?
in the legwork.
There we go.
I'll put in the
I
legwork.
need an and you know it during the next broadcast.
But last night, Miami beats the Knicks. The Knicks have been playing well. Julius Randle scores 57 the other night. I mean, I think that you believe, and I'd be tempted to believe, that the Knicks are better than the Heat, that they've been better for a sustained period of time in the regular season.
But if they play in a playoff series, it's anyone's game.
They won't.
No, because they're not going to get to that
Yeah.
4-5 matchup, and the Knicks are
But you are
locked in there.
you are at the point where you need the Heat to play those kind of games for the last 10 games so that you can pass the Nets, so that this can be a slalom course that doesn't begin with slaughter, because the top of this conference is those are gonna be very hard games for the Heat to win.
Credit to Jimmy Butler. Not only is he playing well, but the vibes around the team over the last few weeks have definitely changed. And he's being the change he sought, I think, because he's not as temperamental, and Nickelback has done this. It's really galvanized the unit, and I'm behind them. And we just needed something kitschy, something to change the vibes, because the vibes, I don't have to tell you, were really bad around that arena.
What does this
and that
mean?
team
What
this
is this
season.
as analysis, though? The
That
vibes
Chad
were
Kroger
bad.
saved the season. Chad Kroger saved the season. Whether you want to believe it or not, the vibes are good right now, and the vibes have not been good for a very long time.
So, I know people get tired of me telling Phoenix Sun stories, but damn, they're irrelevant. So what am I supposed to do? In 2009, 2010, we started the year 15-4, and then we went through this terrible phase where we're like 500, and we couldn't figure it out, and we're down in the dumps, and we're playing Dallas on TNT, and Robert Sarver decides he wants to address the team, and so he comes in and he starts telling this kind of very inspirational story about how we just got to fight through it and adversity and all that stuff. And then he says, I was playing basketball with my son, and he had his iPod playing. Yeah, that's how old this is. He had his iPod playing, and he said, this song came on. And I was like, oh, I can't believe the language in this song, that your mother shouldn't hear this song or whatever. But then I started listening to the lyrics, and I was like, yeah. And the song was ludicrous. Get back, motherfucker. You don't know me like that. And so then he starts impromptu performing this in front of the team. I mean, full energy, everything. And we're all just sitting there like...
all the lyrics?
Mm-hmm.
Is this part of
What was that
the
sound?
ESPN article?
What was that sound? What was the sound you just made? That's not comment. That's not no comment. I need confirmation.
He's gone.
He's gone. That's right. Anyways, so we're all sitting there trying not to laugh. We go out there, we play the first half against Dallas, and we're down at halftime. And you can look this up. The halftime interview was with Jason Terry walking off the floor. And you're like, hey, you guys are up 13. Like, what's going right for you? And Jason Terry says, well, we're really disappointed in ourselves because this is the worst defensive team in the league. And, we should have way more than 52 points or whatever they had at half. And so we played that in the locker room at halftime. We came out, we bust their ass. And when the guys came bouncing in, and we had been down energy-wise all, like, for months, right? They came bouncing in, they were all singing, get back, motherfucker, you don't know me like that. So this could be the moment. This could be the turning point.
This does a great story. Does not feel like great analysis of Heat basketball. They haven't been able to shoot all season. Mike Ryan has alleged Vibes and Nickelback have saved the season.
Jeremy, you cover the Heat for a living. You're in that building. What are vibes like right now?
Vibes are way better, Mike. The vibes are way better. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying it's Nickelback. Nickelback wasn't in the locker room last night, but that vibe.
Okay, but winning.
Heat vibes are Nickelback.
Okay, but winning makes the vibes better.
Shooting also helps winning.
You score 127 against the Knicks.
Right, but what changed?
The shots started going in.
But what changed?
They all want to be big rock stars.
You're in on this.
I am, Dan. And there's Nickelback coming in. Oh my God, Jimmy Butler.
You never recovered from yesterday's
okay.
attempt. Yeah.
You've got to lubricate your voice.
There's a steal my bird. They all want to be big rock stars.
No, it's too early.
Okay.
Look up the lyrics to Something in Your Mouth. Yeah.
Mike, biggest college basketball
Weekend for the program on the whole. I mean, just last year, the Miami Hurricanes were playing the eventual champion in the Elite Eight and leading at halftime. But when you consider the women's team's achievements, upsetting the number 1 seed, this is the biggest Miami college basketball weekend ever. It begins on Friday.
This is filthy.
Hold on.
These lyrics are filthy.
Okay, but don't do that yet unless it's Dirty Johnny Most, and I would not advise you to do that.
I don't know if I can.
This is a big weekend. Mike has become, I've talked about this before locally, Coral Gables campus. It's a community, and it's different than anything else in Miami. I'm not going to call it sweet and syrupy, but the things around the baseball and the basketball program feel homegrown. People who have lived in this town for a long time. Mike now raises his daughter in the community of not something I couldn't have imagined in my lifetime, which is also women's basketball. Like, both programs matter. It's a big deal that they're in for the first time, Sweet 16 in 30 years, because that community gets to feel like a small town, college town, and we don't have much like that in Miami.
I'm actually proud of the way that our show has talked about Miami women's basketball this season, even though my one complaint is probably we haven't discussed it enough considering their on-court achievements, but it wasn't the easiest of seasons. But we've always done so through the prism of not really talking about the TikTok sensation that is the Cavender twins.
We haven't talked about them at all.
No, it's low-hanging fruit for a lot of people whenever they want to discuss Miami basketball, but I want to tie it into maybe the sustainability of what this program is, because the Cavender twins are the biggest stars in that sport when you look at social media metrics. I'm talking about women's college basketball. They made a move from Fresno. They had an NIL deal with WWE before. That's how they kind of rose to prominence because of TikTok, but they made a business decision to come down to Miami, and it totally blew up their brand. And they're just megastars. There was an NIL evaluation chart that had the top 5 biggest jumps in NIL value because of the tournament. 3 of them were men. 2 of them were the Cavender twins.
And at the center of this, just so that people understand, Mike told you as an insider in college sports that what was coming for Miami with having a gas bag, sort of boostery Cuban cartoon in repping the program was the initial NIL sanctions of those girls getting here is where it starts. The NCAA says, wait a minute, we need to brand manage here.
It should be noted, and this has kind of been missing in the reporting, that tweet that prompted everything, the Cavender twins' parents having dinner with John Ruiz, it did prompt an investigation. The investigation is completed. John Ruiz was cleared. The Cavender twins were cleared. The only punishment that came from it was a Katie Myers suspension. Also, that tweet didn't just lead to an investigation on the women's basketball team. It led to an athletic department-wide investigation. That means football, men's basketball, all the other athletic programs, including John Ruiz's involvement, were cleared of any wrongdoing. And that was lacking in all the reporting. But what I want to talk about is the Cavender twins' move and seeing how this could be sustainable for the University of Miami going forward. By moving to Miami, by being in this atmosphere, they increase their brand recognition. And I guarantee you're going to see high-profile portal prospects looking at what happened with the Cavender twins, seeing how they boosted their value by just being in Miami and having that associated with their brands. We're talking about women's college basketball here. The marquee programs are in South Carolina, in Connecticut, in Tennessee. If you look at the metrics on social media and even television viewing throughout this tournament, you don't need a legacy program like that to build your brand. What the Cavender twins did was actually quite smart. And I wonder if people are going to look at Miami's women's basketball program going forward, seeing what the Cavenders did, and realizing they can do that here too. And maybe we have a basketball program in the women's game that can matter going forward.
I love this character, lobbyist on behalf of NIL boosterism. Because Mike and the University of Miami.
Well, a lot of what I do on the air, Dan, is largely performative. You know that I'm deeply involved in both these, like the women's, men's college basketball programs, and certainly football.
It's really cool that they're both in the Sweet 16. Yes, what you're witnessing is you need to get to these places, and these things need to happen for your program to grow into a thing that matters nationally, which UM women's basketball has not. UM men's basketball is not. It's why you get into these conferences. They signed a horrible ACC deal. They have a very valuable program. Like, it's valuable. And they have a deal with the ACC. It's the worst of all the conference deals because it was the first that Skipper did that, didn't he?
Yeah, Skipper, I've thanked him several times over for that. I guess I'll give you a little juicy nugget. Miami is among the teams exhausting all their options to try to improve their financials. I know FSU, their athletic department did a deep dive on the numbers, and there's talk that you can pay off the buyout in a couple of years' time if you get a sweetheart deal. All those options are on the table for Miami, but what was most important inside the ACC, because it's such a difficult conference because all the basketball legacy schools carry so much weight in there, is you had to get one of the North Carolina schools to buy in. To really threaten the ACC, you had to scare them that their basketball would be really shaken up, and they did so. North Carolina is on board. North Carolina is now taking more of a leadership position in trying to evaluate these other options. So I do think we're going to see some developments in that in the near future.
Who's more likely to advance this weekend, though, if we're just looking at these games? By point spread, the women are a 4-point underdog. The men are 7. What do you think? If you had to put some money on it?
Well, the women's team had such a weird year. It was kind of disappointing entering the season because you had all this hope from last year and you made the additions. They were really hurt, but then they could show you with a double-digit win at Virginia Tech, and Destiny, I think, was out for that game, and with an upset on the road inside the building of Indiana. If you can do that to a 1 seed, that flatly does not happen in that
not going to get tougher than that, right?
I know it's happened twice this season. This is an oddity for number 1 seeds to go down as early as they did. If you can beat Indiana in that spot, if you can beat Virginia Tech by double digits, you can damn near beat anyone.
We are in position because Destiny Harden is a paid employee of Meadowlark Media as part of these NIL deals. Do we not have the ability to make a $10,000 bet on the Hurricanes that night? Like, couldn't we doing? As a company?
No, we just no, we don't make that as a company. We're not operating in although HQ is in a New York where gambling is legal. No, we're not going to do that.
We
What are you
couldn't do
doing?
this. We couldn't
Yeah,
do
no,
this.
wait.
Did you not just hear how we were cleared of any wrongdoing? Why would you even throw that
mean-
out there?
Wait,
no.
he can't bet on the team?
I mean, Dan could.
Dan could.
well, no,
Yeah.
well, he can't here because it's not legal.
No, he
here,
can
but-
fly to New York. And,
Yeah,
and
just
do
fly to
so.
New York and
Yeah,
do it,
Worth
Dan.
doing? Is it worth doing it as a publicity stunt on behalf
No.
of supporting the program on
It's
this
not worth
day
talking
where
about.
we haven't even announced
This
the-
is a publicity stunt.
Chris-
This is bad attention.
No, there's no such thing.
Yes,
I,
no,
I,
there is.
I learned that in
all good
publicity school.
publicity,
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go. Chris went
No,
there.
but maybe it'll appear in the Thursday Thunder. How about that?
well, very disappointing.